So, welcome to the podcast, Kyle Warren. Kyle, how are you, sir?
I'm great, thanks, Rob. How you doing?
The very best, mate. The very best. Now, the reason we have you on this week's podcast is because we broke the news last week on the show about your upcoming album, Relentless. And the big question on everyone's lips at the minute is, where did this come from? How did this all start?
Yeah, it's I kind of say it's been 10 years in the making, and I guess that's because my first album was 10 years ago, and I guess to even do one album is you feel very fortunate, very lucky to get that chance, and but yeah, I guess in the end you're writing all this music, and I released a book in 2020, Eat, Sleep, Pipe, Repeat, and I guess from that moment I realized that there could be an album in this book. There's 50 tunes, and I mean it's a niche within a niche when you release a music book or a piping music book. It's really
Mm.
getting quite niche in maybe the market and who's going to buy that or be interested in it. So you're kind of thinking you've got tunes in there that you're proud of, that you like, that you hope other people might like. So if you can get it recorded, there's more chance of people hearing it and maybe picking it up as well. So that's where it kind of started. And then I just kind of, I guess I chanced my arm, to be honest, and I had to contact Ian Green for permission to use a Gordon Duncan tune. Um, and I just asked, how's the scene these days, and it's obviously not great, as we probably all know. I mean, like
Yeah.
just music in general, it went from obviously being kind of, hard copies, CDs to downloads to streaming, and that whole journey's
Hmm.
just really kind of hit everyone pretty hard. It's not what it
Yeah.
used to be, I guess. And then obviously you throw in COVID into the mix as well, and there's
That's
no
it
live
too.
performances where if you're playing, maybe people like it, and then they'll maybe obviously make a purchase on the day. So yeah, probably not the best time to ask somebody if they're if they fancy signing you for an album. But oh no, Ian came back. He was really positive about the whole project and the idea, which was really great in itself as well. So that's where it started, and even that journey's been long. That was probably 2 years ago when I started kind of calling people saying, "Hey, like, would you be interested in being a part of this project?" And so yeah, long start stop journey is everything has been for the last few years, but
Yeah.
in a lot of ways that's kind of helped it musically as well. To be honest, there's two tracks that actually wouldn't have been on the album if things had went smoothly.
Oh, really? Oh,
So yeah, we kind of had dates in for like rehearsals and then like recording, and obviously yeah, as everyone knows, we all get shut down again. So
mhm.
I just keep writing, and I always write, or record into my phone. I've got like 487 recordings or something at the moment in the phone there.
Wow.
And, even if 10% of them are okay, there's another book. So no,
Yeah.
they're not all gems, I promise you. But so yeah, like in the end, you got to take the positives there and think, well, actually, I mean, even the title track from the album, "Relentless," that was one that came out of nowhere right at the very end, and it's became like a big track on the album. So yeah, you got to
Yeah.
take the positives through it all, and that's kind of how it's all came about.
That's a fantastic story. And if anything, I was going to ask you about Green Tracks because they're quite famous, in the trad and folk scene as well as the pipe band scene as well.
Yeah, huge,
Yeah.
huge.
So it's
Especially.
quite a huge deal then, really. Yeah.
I think it's great. I mean, I think obviously over the years that when you look at the artists that they've supported and that they've given that opportunity, and obviously Gordon Duncan probably being the most famous in our world.
Mm.
So yeah, to have that kind of backing and the support there is at any time would have been phenomenal. But I guess as like you say, as the music industry is changing, it sounds fancy when
Yeah.
you say music industry, but you got to see yourself in that industry, albeit in
Hmm.
a niche part of it. Yeah, to have that backing and support is huge, and to be honest, it made the whole thing happen. Without that, you're really going to be pretty brave to go for it, and many people are, and good on them for it. But it certainly would be all the harder if you were just starting with a
Yeah.
zero in the bank balance towards your towards your CD. That makes it 10 times
That's
harder.
it. Absolutely. Well, I want to talk about the album itself. It's honestly 12 tracks of happiness is how I take it. Whenever I've had a listen to a bit of a preview copy, we've played a couple of tracks of it already on the radio, and the reaction to it, Kyle, is just insane. I dare say we'll be playing a lot more from this album in future. But I think the reason behind its popularity is because there's quite a list of incredible musicians on here along with you. So, how did you get these guys involved?
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, I think my first album was similar as well in terms of it's a
Yeah.
piping album because it's piping led, but it's certainly not, obviously it's not very traditional in many ways.
Mm.
It's modern contemporary tunes on the instrument, but with all the full backing as well. And I guess a big part of that is to try and again reach beyond the immediate interested listener, which might be a piper, but if you can kind of
Yes.
reach beyond that, then again, there's data, there's maybe more interest in the wider. You can maybe kind of grow your following or whatever. So yeah, I was really keen from day one to kind of reach out to musicians to come on board, and again, because I was fortunate to already have like first album done, of course you look back in that and you think, okay, what can you do better? Can you show like a musical maturity or a maturity in the sound or the arrangements or whatever it could be? So you kind of want to go all out a little bit more on the second one because your first one
Yeah.
you're just so thankful you've got the chance. You'll that's great in itself. But I love Rura. I absolutely love Rura. So I approached Jack Smedley, who's the fiddle player, and Adam Brown, who's the guitarist. And again, it's kind of like the piping world. I mean, everyone knows everyone, but to be honest, I don't feel like I was close enough to feel like they were just going to say yes, not a problem. I was
Mm.
definitely kind of quite nervous phoning them, kind of explaining, hey, it's Kyle, the piper, and but everyone was on board like really quickly, which that was great. That gives you like an instant feeling of like confidence that like
Yeah.
they actually see something in this themselves as well. So so the boys from Rura were awesome. Jack or sorry, James Lindsay, the bass player from Braybach, so obviously
Hmm.
kind of folk powerhouse as well. So that was awesome. From the first album, Craig Muirhead's on keys.
Yeah.
And he's a phenomenal keys player, and that's a good enough reason alone to get him in. But of course, like his piping knowledge, just like that secondary ear, is really invaluable as well. And of course, obviously, those other three guys are involved in bands like the Rura Boys and Brayback, obviously that have
Yeah.
got pipes in as well. So like, yeah, that understanding is probably pretty key, or it definitely helps you get the end product, I guess, maybe quicker or slicker,
Mm.
or that was all great. And Scott Mackay on kit, he's an awesome kit player, and it was my first chance to work with Scott, so I was really excited about that. And then finally, Stevie Lawrence produced both albums, my previous one and this one, and he's a guitar bouzouki player, and his knowledge of the scene is just incredible. Like he can Iron Horse days, so he's kind of well known for that back in the day. And but he's been on over like 200 albums, so his experience is just like you can't buy that, and I literally can't pay for him. I'm
Yeah.
really it's great that we're friends because I couldn't afford the amount of 3 hours he puts to the project. But like, he'll send you ideas from like this like Norwegian saxophone player with like a male vocal choir to like Rammstein, like this heavy
Oh my
metal from
word. Yeah.
Germany. Like honestly, the things he sends you on YouTube are mental, but there's method to it, and you hear stuff in it, and you somehow you pull things together, and so no, yeah, without them, obviously the album would be very very different. So I was delighted they came on board, and again delighted how it turned out, and it's quite a journey from your first draft, you think you've nailed it, and then by the end of it, what the album looks like is nothing what your ideas were at the start. You've got to be pretty flexible with it as well, I guess, to get the best out of it and to utilize everyone's ideas as well.
That's it. I think for folks who haven't heard it yet and are waiting for it on general release, I think I'm very fortunate. I've got this previous copy, so I can just kind of talk about it. But the sound is, I hope the sound's the right, but it's bigger. It's like a fuller kind of presentation compared to your previous album. It just seems to be a lot more orchestration and a lot bigger sound. Is that kind
Yeah.
of how you approach this?
Yeah, there's heaps going on. I mean, the guys you mentioned already is, I guess you could call it the band in inverted commas, and
Hmm.
that's seven of us when you count myself as well. But then there's 13 musicians in total, so it's kind of like guest appearances and whatnot, and there's brass that became quite prominent in some of the tracks as well, which is
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
great kind of texture as well, and then. Pardon me, working with Scott Wood as well, that was a really big thing for me going into his studio. And Scott, again, is a phenomenal piper, and he's probably well
yeah.
known for his Scary
Hmm.
stuff and his own stuff as well at the moment. But he's a sound engineer. He's got his own studio, phenomenal, equipment in studio. It's so that was really a key for me going in there as well with his pipe and ear. But that would do him a disservice to just say he's a piper. His whole knowledge of everything is incredible. But no, so even he was adding stuff. I think sound design is the the official term. I think was basically
Yeah.
anything he can press on his computer to do things becomes potentially, I guess, sound design. I'm probably really thinking it down a little bit, but that's my lack of knowledge on what buttons he was pressing. But yeah, certain things that you probably can't get your own instrument, whatever. So it just made it huge, and I wanted it to be that, I guess, was sure one chance to go for it when you've got these guys on board. And I appreciate, like, I
Yeah,
won't be able to take that on stage all the time, like, I mean, if it definitely wouldn't be 13, but if you really went all out, you'd be looking at 9 people on stage, which would be awesome, and that would be the dream. But logistically, right away, that becomes difficult, if
yeah,
it's travel, if it's a festival, it's got the cost involved and stuff. So I have to
that's it.
obviously, like, yeah, be flexible and go out as a trio, go out as a four or a five, and it's all very doable. But your album's your one time to just go big if you
That's
can,
it. Just go for it, Kyle. Exactly. Yeah. So for folks listening again, I want to remind you the album's out on July 1st. So you haven't that long to wait, actually. So, but it is available for pre-order right now. Not right through your website.
Correct, yes. So my website is kylewarrenbagpipes.com. So the pre-order, you can do that just now, and that'll get to you as quick as any other way. And 1st of July it gets released, and yeah, it's kind of funny because it's been such a long process, and it's parts of it have been ready, before other parts. So in some ways, I've been listening to it heaps as well, to the point where I forget that it's new. so, so like, yeah, it's nice when you get to talk to someone, and it's new for them, and then you realize, okay, yeah, it's very new, and yeah, excited to get it out, and I guess just to see where it goes. It'd be great if it, hopefully. I say it the same with composing, and I guess because it is actually pretty much all my own tunes as well. So there's a double whammy there. It's your own tunes, so it can make you nervous, like how are people going to find your tunes? But then it's obviously your own arrangement of your own sound as well, which would be
Yeah.
make anyone equally nervous. Like, this is my own thing as well. So there's two reasons to be nervous about it, I guess, in terms of how it's taken, and if people like it. And you've always got to be music subjective. You've got to just throw it out there, and as long as you're happy, that's a start. But yeah, no, I'm yeah. Hopeful it goes down well. Hopeful it gets a bit of interest. And see where it goes. I guess I don't know where it's going to go. But that's part of the excitement, I guess. And
Kyle, I have to say, man, going by the reaction we've got to the couple of tracks that we managed to play on the radio, this will go down a storm. Piping fans really seem to love it, and we're going to close this week's interview with a very short clip of it to let folks a bit of an idea of what it sounds like. But yeah, I'm dead excited for the release. This is going to be quite an incredible album that you folks should definitely pick up. So, will we be seeing you piping live this year? Will you be doing any performances or anything?
yeah, so I'm on the Monday. It's the 8th of August at
Hmm.
6 o'clock in the Street Cafe. So looking forward to that. That'll be most likely, yeah, the first time that I get the chance to play the music live, So that'd be cool. That'd be
Nice.
great. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a nice time of the festival before it obviously gets a bit competitively serious and you as
Yeah.
well, So I can, yeah, Monday would be a good time to kick off the week. And it's been, although I got back most years when I was abroad, I haven't actually technically played under my own kind of name there since 2014. So
Yeah.
that's quite nice as well, just to kind of get back into it. Much like everything else, now being back in Scotland, it's nice to, yeah, kind of live the piping life again over here.
That's it, and get back at it again. And I know that you've been competing this last while with the mighty Field Marshal. How have things been back in the ranks again?
Yeah, yeah, actually, it's phenomenal. I mean, first time round, I played in the band for 4 years, 2011 to 14, and it was an incredible time to be in the band. And
Mm.
I guess when we emigrated to Australia, in many ways, you thought, well, that's never going to happen again, and so yeah, to come back to Scotland and to get that chance to get back into the circle is great. And again, there's a bit of that kind of, I guess you're just trying to prove to yourself that you can still do it, and it does get
Yeah.
harder. Like, I'm in my mid 30s. I don't know if that counts as old quite yet, but maybe it feels like it. But we've got a family there as well, so just like,
Yeah.
when you're young and you're in uni, it's just the pipe band's life, and it's all that matters, and literally nothing else matters. You can
That's
drop
it.
anything. And now when you've got 3 kids,
Kind of
and
different. Yeah.
yeah, look, you can't quite drop everything as quick, to fix your pipes when they're not going. So, but it's great. I mean, it's yeah, the British Championships there. So that was my first. I actually got COVID a couple of weeks before, so I
Oh
missed the
no.
banger. So it'd be nice to get out for a wee run before the big one. But I actually had a great. I just really enjoyed the day. I guess missing it for so long. It was and I was really felt quite nice in the circle, quite comfortable. I thought I'd be a bag of nerves, but no, it's great to be back. Absolutely great. And
Ah, great.
never took it for granted the first time, and certainly the older you get, the you really take it in as well. It's so it's good. Yeah, good fun.
That's it. Well, it's fantastic to see you back on the grass again, for one. But for number two, this album, Relentless, seriously is ridiculously good. So thank you, Kyle, for such an incredible release. I'm only saying this because I've heard it, but I know folks listening to the pod haven't heard it yet. But seriously, folks, you need to go out and pre-order this album now and get it on the day of release. It's seriously ridiculous. So, Kyle, can you give us a track then for us to close on? Which one would you recommend that we close out on?
Yeah, I think I'll go for the title track, Relentless.
Yes,
And again,
absolutely.
like I said at the start, it's well, this wasn't even on, my first 12 tracks, draft one. This tune didn't even
Right.
exist, and then
Yeah.
yeah, everything got postponed a wee bit further, and then and it's a polka, and I've never written a polka before, and yeah, just kind of, I guess sometimes if something comes quick, and easily, then you're thinking there's maybe something in that, so, and then
Mm.
again, when you get in the studio, it's or the rehearsal studio, and you start playing it through and over, and things are happening, and it starts to kind of form it becomes a track, because it's only two parts of a tune, maybe three parts,
Mm.
so that's not a long tune to make 3 or 4 minutes out of it. But yeah, when you start hearing what everyone else can add to it and the textures, and then you can obviously drop the pipes in and out, and other things can happen, and it become yeah, very quickly became like a strong track. And in the end, the title track. So it's yeah, fun to play, and yeah, one that came out of nowhere, really.
Indeed. Well, thank you, Kyle, for taking time to chat with us here on the podcast. And so here's a wee clip of Relentless. Go and pre-order it now. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you, Rob. Cheers.